What's going on, guys? My name is Trevor. Welcome back to the channel. IMDB released their top 10 movies of 2023, and today we're ranking all the movies they deem to be the top 10 best of the year, from my least favorite to my favorite. I agree with a couple of these. There's a couple I was surprised on there, and there's a couple that I'm just really astounded made this top 10 list. But nonetheless, let me know your ranking down below in the comment section of these 10 movies. Do you agree with this list? Do you not agree? Let's talk about it down below, and let's hop into things. So first and foremost, here are the 10 movies that made IMDB's top 10 list for the year. We have The Flash, John Wick Chapter 4, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Little Mermaid, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Five Nights at Freddy's, Barbie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Oppenheimer. Quite a vast list we have right there. Let's hop into my ranking. And at number 10 is going to be The Flash. This is the one movie I am completely astounded made this list. I thought the first 2/3 of this movie worked pretty well. Not even greatly, just pretty well. And I think the third act of this film completely fell apart. And I think a lot of my unenjoyment for this movie came from the overall hype of this movie. People were calling it the best DC movie, best comic movie of the decade, best comic movie of all time. This literally is none of those things, and this is actually one of my least favorite movies of the entire year. I think Ezra Miller does a great job as Barry Allen in this role. Very charismatic, very funny. I like getting to see Ben Affleck in there. I love getting to see Michael Keaton back. But overall, it is just a convoluted mess pretty much from the halfway point on. And by the time you get to the overall third act and a big kind of plot twist over the overall film, I was completely taken out of this movie. And I was literally like, this has to be one of the dumbest turns we've ever taken a film. I was really into it for the first 20-30 minutes, really started to drop off, and then all of a sudden by the end, I looked at my wife, who absolutely hated this movie, and I said, man, that was a utter disappointment. At number 9 is Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm surprised it made this list, but I still really enjoyed this movie, and I think it's one of the more surprising movies of the entire year. I have not played the Five Nights at Freddy's game, so I was very unfamiliar with the concept of this movie going in. I just went in to have a good time. I watched it at home on Peacock with my wife, and we both really enjoyed it. I thought the lore they gave us about the game throughout this movie worked really well. I thought the horror aspects they had in there worked very well. I thought Matthew Lillard, the little bit he was in there, was great. I thought Josh Hutcherson was actually fantastic. There's a couple of things in there I didn't really enjoy while watching it, but after the movie, I did a little bit more research. I kind of went on Reddit and heard everyone talking about it, went on TikTok, got scrolling, and heard everyone's really kind of sharing what they really loved about this movie, and it made me love it more. My biggest gripe while watching this movie was that every time he survived Five Nights at Freddy's, he really survived it by just sleeping. That's kind of like the big thing about this movie, that still is kind of a problem, but he's in these dream scenarios a lot, and he has all these like kind of kids that are in these dreams, and he's trying to figure out what happened to them and where they went. And then I found out afterwards that that's a big part of the lore about this movie, so that made me enjoy it a little bit more. I still think it was kind of a little bit of an L that he slept through the night, and that's how he survived Five Nights at Freddy's. Nonetheless, I thought the animatronics looked great. I thought the direction was very good. And overall, I just really liked this movie. And I was very surprised by it. Again, I'm surprised it made this list. But nonetheless, I was surprised by this movie. It will make my most surprising list by the end of the year. At number 8 is The Little Mermaid. This is another Disney live action remake, and I would say I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Now, I have it a little lower than other movies because it is a remake, and I do like the Disney animated movie of The Little Mermaid just a little bit more. Nonetheless, this is still a ton of fun. Seeing Ariel get brought to life by Halle Bailey with the voice of an angel, my goodness. And I was very interested to see how this movie is going to look underwater. And I thought it looked just fantastic. I love Ursula, one of the all-time great Disney villains. Melissa McCarthy crushes it. Halle Bailey as Ariel crushes it. Daveed Diggs as freaking Sebastian crushes it. Arguably the best part. They had a couple of songs in there like the Scuttlebutt. Not a big fan of that one, but the one that Prince Eric sings, like Wild Uncharted Waters, I believe it's called, dude, just gets you in the freaking feels. Overall, it was a fun time. I watched this with my wife on our honeymoon. It's one I'm going to remember forever. I really, really enjoyed it. At number 7 is Barbie. This movie took the world by storm. It was not on my bingo cards for this movie to make $1 billion. It was not on my bingo cards to have Barbenheimer summer. But we got it, and this movie is just a ton of fun, and it screams fun. And I am definitely not the target audience for this, but my wife, her friends, they all really enjoyed it, and that just made me enjoy it that much more. I think Greta Gerwig should get nominated for Best Director. She crushed it. The set design should 100% win because it is unbelievable. The costume design should win as well. I mean, the designs of this movie are absolutely fantastic. Margot Robbie, definitely nominated her. Ryan Gosling, he might be able to win because he is absolutely perfect as Ken. He really found that Kenergy deep inside him. I'm just Ken. Anywhere else, I'd be a 10. At number 6 is the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought this movie ruled. I'm a die-hard Super Mario Brothers fan. My wife and I play the game on the Nintendo Switch all the time. So, going into this movie, it's a game I've played my entire life. From Mario Kart, Super Mario Bros., Super Smash Bros. Brawl, all these games that have Mario and all these characters in it, I grew up playing. So, I just went in and wanting something so good, and they delivered a fantastic movie and one of the best animated movies, if not the best animated movie of the entire year. It is so fun. The songs they add in here, Peaches, 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 I love you. I just gotta do it. Every single time I gotta do it. I thought the voice casting was great. I thought the story they gave us about Mario and Luigi, how they're trying to go into business together, and then they kind of go down the drain. They end up in this world. I think it just works very well. I thought they did a great job exploring the lore, and they set up so many possibilities for sequels. I had a ton of fun with this one. It's one I want to rewatch all the time, and it's on Netflix right now if you haven't seen it. At number 5, Killers of the Flower Moon. Starring Lily Gladstone, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. It's at number 5. It's one of the best made movies of the year, and I think that's ultimately why I made this list. It's just one of those movies I probably will never rewatch again because of its length, because of how heavy it is, because of the overall subject matter, and that runtime. I said length already, but that runtime really does hit. And I remember when I was in the theaters watching this, everyone was kind of checking their phones, wondering, when are we going to wrap this up? Nonetheless, this is arguably one of Martin Scorsese's best made movies, and it is a tragic story. Lily Gladstone probably will be the front runner to win Best Actress this year, rightfully so. Leonardo DiCaprio, I think this is one of my favorite performances by him because he plays this guy who's just overall kind of dense, and he plays him so well. I think it's a more underrated and very subtle performance from Leonardo DiCaprio. Robert De Niro, I love this guy. One of the all-time great actors, but he's a guy that everyone loves, but behind the curtain, he is just an evil, evil man. It's one of those movies I probably won't rewatch again due to the runtime, but also due to how it made me feel after. I wasn't very jolly after I got out of seeing this movie. Kind of hit me in like the heart and the feels, and I was like, I just don't feel that good right now. Nonetheless, a great movie, arguably one of the best movies of the year. Mark this on your books. It's definitely getting nominated for a buttload of Oscars. At number 4, John Wick Chapter 4. A little bit surprised this one made this list, the 4th movie in a franchise, but a lot of people said it's the best movie in the franchise, and damn near it is. I think the first one still holds it for me, just near and dear. I love that movie. But John Wick 4, just talk about just on nonstop action, but one that is done better than like John Wick 3, done better than John Wick 2, done better than the first John Wick. They have this scene, as I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times, of John Wick running through a house like a bird's eye view of him shooting dragon's breath. It is 3 hours of straight gun violence and Keanu Reeves being the Baba Yaga. It's a ton of fun. It's the ultimate dude movie. Turn it on a Friday night, hang out with a couple of buddies, and just watch the Baba Yaga absolutely kick ass. At number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. From this point on, these top 3 movies are all in my top 10 of the year. I love them all so much. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is one of those MCU movies that just hits different. It hits you in the feels. It hits you in the emotions. What are they going to do different this time? How are we going to give a different pace for the MCU? And they just let James Gunn make his movie, and he absolutely knocked it out of his park for his final feature inside the MCU. I mean, this movie's perfect, really from start to finish. The only gripe I have with it is that it is a little sad. I don't want to rewatch it, but the overall payoff you get for the character of Rocket is what ultimately makes this movie absolutely great. A little bit hard to get through just because of how sad it is in the beginning, and it's Rocket's story through and through. But my goodness, I get chills just thinking about it. When you get to the end, when you get to the dog days are over, when you get to that ultimate badass, arguably greatest scene ever inside the MCU, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, it has everything you want. It has the arcs of these characters, it has the emotional beats, it has great action, and just sets up greatly for what the Guardians are going to go. I love this one. It is a little hard to rewatch because of how sad Rocket's story is, but you just gotta remember how fantastic his arc is and where he ends up by the end of the movie. At number 2, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse, one of the few movies I rewatched twice in theaters this year. Across the Spiderverse is arguably the best Spider-Man movie, one of the best comic book sequels of all time. And this one gave you everything and more you kind of wanted. Miles got into like that secret Spider-Man society, the one he wanted to get into, but the more they unravel this, it is just so heavy. Miguel O'Hara is just this anti-hero of sorts, a character who I really, really love, but I also really, really hate. And I love that it's a Miles story and a Gwen story. It's equally their movie. They're splitting the screen time. They're splitting everything. And you can really gravitate towards that. You can really relate with that. I loved how this movie ended. A lot of people were unaware this was a part 2. I knew that going in, so I was not surprised by that, and I think the way this movie ended set up fantastic for Beyond the Spider-Verse, and if this trilogy can stick the landing, it's going to go down as one of the all-time great trilogies of all time. But at number 1 is Oppenheimer. One of those movies that took the world by storm. Cannot believe it grossed as much as it did at the box office. Over $950 million. Dang near joined the $1 billion club. But the Barbenheimer movement was strong, and Oppenheimer is still to this day my favorite movie of the entire year. And I think this is arguably Christopher Nolan's best. The more I think about it, the more I actually think it might be. A 3-hour-long epic where people are just talking, as famous internet celebrity said online. Is one of the most captivating, moving, inspirational, insane stories and movies you can watch this entire freaking year. Cillian Murphy is bee's knees. I think he should win Best Actor. I think Emily Blunt should win Best Supporting Actress. I think Robert Downey Jr. should win Best Supporting Actor. And I honestly think that Oppenheimer should pretty much sweep the Oscars. Best Director, Best Picture, all of them. Give this movie them, because it is everything and more. It's kind of like one of those moments when a director says, hold my beer. They are all tired of Nolan's kind of twists and turns and his tropes or his comic book movies he makes. He really said, you know what? This is what I got, and this is why I'm the greatest filmmaker of all time, and I'll stand on that, and I truly believe that. Oppenheimer is nothing short of extraordinary. You can't even buy it on Blu-ray now because of how many people love this one. It's my favorite movie of the year, and I 100% agree that it should be the number 1 spot on IMDb's top 10 of 2023. That's going to do it for my ranking of the IMDb Top 10 2023 movies. Let me know your ranking down below in the comment section. What do you think missed the list? What missed the cut? Let's talk about it all down below. Leave a like, hit the subscribe button, notification bell if you guys made it this far. Appreciate you so much, and thank you guys so much for watching and for being here. As always, I'll see you in the next one.